Hello, good morning, good afternoon to everybody that's joined us for our Windows 11 Ready webinar. We're just going to get started now. So today you have three main hosts. Two of us will be presenting. You'll have myself. My name is Mark Overson. I'm the product marketing manager here at Instron. Alongside me, I have Francis Corsby, who is our senior support engineer in Dynamic Systems. And additionally, we have Dr. Pete Bailey, our principal materials scientist. Just some notices before we start for today. We will be recording this webinar. Um, there is a question and answer session planned for the end of the webinar, i.e., after we've done everything. So please, as you go, type your questions into the chat box, and we'll basically address them at the end of the show. Finally, the slides for today, we don't plan to share them. However, if there is anything that you wish to obtain or any information you found useful, please by all means do contact us and we will endeavor to get you the information you require. The agenda for today is quite simple. We're going to go through a little bit about Windows 10 obsolescence and what it means. Then talk about Windows 11 ready, i.e. what you need to do in order to get your system ready for Windows 11. And then finally, we will be doing a product demonstration, live product demonstration of the software, WaveMatrix3. So Windows 10 obsolescence, what does it mean? So periodically, Microsoft ends support for their different PC operating systems. Most recently, Windows 10 is coming to an end, and that's basically being halted this October. They typically do this every 5 years. It does depend, but normally Windows do this regularly, and it's something Microsoft do. And as a user of Microsoft products, we have to react to that as a company. The impact is that customers, i.e., ourselves, we're unable to receive technical assistance, software updates, or security fixes on that platform. So we're unable to do an awful lot of things we typically do with updates. This again affects our ability to support proprietary software such as WaveMatrix3, Blue Hill Universal, and Blue Hill Fracture, for example, that are not necessarily designed to work on Windows 11. However, those three are designed to work on Windows 11, and we'll get to that in a moment. There are also different versions of Windows 10 you need to be aware of. So the version that we have on many of our systems, some systems are supplied with Windows 10 Enterprise LTSC. This is typically on our static machines and not necessarily on our dynamic systems. However, these versions will be supported beyond October 2025, and the dates do differ. So Windows 10 LTSB is 2016 is basically supported until October next year, 2026. Windows 10 LTSC from 2019 is supported until January 2029. So there's plenty of time to assess your computer and plan for those upgrades at a later date. However, what we're talking about today is Windows 10 Professional. This is the version of Windows that will be unsupported from October, and it is our recommendation that our customers using our systems upgrade to Windows 11 compatible software. Just wanted to say very quickly at this point in time, before moving on to the Windows 11 piece, is that it's very important to understand just because your system has Windows 10 and Windows 10 is no longer being supported by Microsoft, it doesn't mean that your computer or your test system will stop working. It will continue to work beyond this support end date, just to be very, very clear on that. However, of course, with Microsoft not providing any security updates, bug fixes, or technical support, it is very hard for us to basically update versions of the system that are using Windows 10 or earlier versions like Windows 7 or Windows XP. And ultimately, the third-party software that we make will gradually lose compatibility with this outdated Windows versions. For example, the latest version of our software, WaveMatrix3, won't be updated to support Windows 10 features. It will only be updated to support Windows 11. Okay. So without further ado, I will hand over to Francis Corsby.
Thank you very much, Mark. Hello everyone. Thank you. I'm Francis, and I'm a senior support and applications engineer here at Instron in our dynamic divisions business. So, talking about Windows 11 Ready, what does that mean? We have three kind of main components of a system. One is the software itself. So that would be things like console, WaveMatrix, and Blue Hill. Then we have the computer that you're operating with its relevant operating system. And then you have the hardware, the frame itself, and the controller that's going with that machine. So those are the three kind of components, and each of those components have their own kind of life cycle. What do I mean by life cycle? So at Instron, we support our systems within four different phases of life. So phase one is what we call full in production support. For example, WaveMatrix3 is our current software. So that's in full production support. So in terms of technical support or application support, calibration, repair, etc. Phase one means we're fully supporting that product. Phase two is not production, but still full supported. So, for example, WaveMatrix 2, we no longer produce it, but we still will, again, fully support it with all of those features. Now, phase three and four is where things start to come out of support. So, phase three would be reasonable effort. And depending on the exact age of the machine or the software, etc., that could be very limited. And then phase four is no longer supported, where we would be very limited in our ability to actually support that product. So now the question is, what cycle are we in for our various pieces of software? So on our screen, you can see here for software, these are the catalog numbers on the left and the descriptions on the right here, and the versions of those pieces of software. So, for example, WaveMatrix 3 here, we started shipping in 2023, and we had the version number there. We'll talk a little bit more about version numbers later and where to find that information on your PC so you can double check whether or not your system is actually Windows 11 already. So basically what we're seeing with this slide is if you have a PC that's been shipped, post 2024, and you have these pieces of software, that PC might be Windows 10, but you might be able to upgrade that PC to Windows 11 through the Microsoft website. And what we're seeing here is all of these pieces of software will be completely compatible with that new version of Windows 11. Or you could equally get a new PC, which is Windows 11, and these pieces of software, again, will function with Windows 11. And then the other piece is the last line is around our controller. So in our dynamic business systems, we have the 8800 MT digital controller, which has been produced since 2014. So this has, been going on over 10 years now. We've been producing this controller, and this is again with our latest version of our console software, fully compatible with a Windows 11 Pro. Okay, in terms of software compatibility, just to give you a little bit more clarity on the older versions of, let's say, for example, WaveMatrix, which is our kind of more common dynamic piece of software. So WaveMatrix 1, like we said, is now phase 4. So it's, and same goes for Blue Hills 1, 2, and 3. WaveMatrix 2, as well as some of our older Fracture software, J1C, K1C, and JDN, those are not Windows 11 supported anymore. Okay, so if you have those pieces of software and you're changing to Windows 11, they might work, but they're not supported. So if there's any bugs or issues, we might be limited in our ability to support them. Versus WaveMatrix 3 here, you can see phase 1 full production support. Same goes for Blue Hill Universal, our static testing software, and Blue Hill Fracture, our latest version of fracture testing software. Okay. Now, how do you check and see if your software is actually in version to be Windows 11 compatible? This is a quick slide just to show you where you would look in the software. So for our console software, there's a little button on the bottom left-hand side of the screen. You click on that, and then you see a little eye symbol. You click on that, and it will give you a little pop-up with the version of console. And then for Blue Hill Fracture with Matrix 3, with Matrix 2, etc., you would open up that piece of software and you click the corresponding symbol to open up again the administration page of that software, and that will again show you the software version. On older pieces of software, this might be a little bit harder to find this information. So the latest piece of software we have made more easier to kind of discover this information without too much hassle. So just for your guidance, really. But obviously, if you're not sure, just contact Instron and we can try and help you discover your version of software. Okay. Then once you've checked your software, obviously here comes the PC check. So for anyone who isn't sure how to find the version of Windows that they have running on their PC, we have here on the screen a couple of different ways of discovering that yourselves. So there's different methods you can use to confirm which version of a Windows you have. And also you can also use online tools to confirm whether or not your PC can be upgraded to Windows 11 without changing it, or if you need to change the PC itself. You can do that online. Okay. And then the next thing you need to check is your piece of hardware. So the 8800 MT controller, like I said earlier, it's been released since 2014, and it's designed to work on our dynamic testing machines for cyclic testing. And this has been, at the heart of our electropulse and servo hydraulic machines, and it is completely compatible with Windows 11. So if you haven't got our latest 8800 MT controller, and you want to run Windows 11, you can certainly reach out to us and speak to us about changing your controller platform to the latest version so that you can now switch to Windows 11 fully. If you are unsure about what version of the controller you have, you can look on either the machine itself or on the back of the controller for the serial number. And again, just reach out to us and we can help you confirm what model and type you have. And if you want to know a little bit more about the actual platform itself, there is information on our website about the controller and its added benefits as a later version of electronics that you might not currently have. Okay, so we're going to move on to the product demonstration now. So I will be showing you a machine and sharing the test PC stream. But before we do, just a couple of things to kind of cover. So in terms of the software structure, what I'm going to show you again is our dynamic machine. And our dynamic machine uses a piece of software called Console. And this is kind of sits as the foundation of all of our other pieces of software, always running in the background. And it gives you live machine status information and helps you with the setup and configuration of the system. On top of that, then we have our test software, for example, WaveMatrix3, which I'll be showing you today, but we have other pieces of software such as Blue Hill Fracture and even Blue Hill Universal, which is developed for our static testing machines, but can also be used on our dynamic machines as well. So they all kind of sit on top of Console. So that's just different pieces of software and how they all kind of fit together. In terms of what we're going to show you today and kind of highlight throughout the product kind of a demonstration is the kind of these new features. So of course, the first one would be around the compatibility with the Windows 11, making sure your systems are future-proofed and you don't have your IT department complaining. And then the actual kind of beneficial features of WaveMatrix 3 to kind of be the benefits of actually changing to the latest version of software if you haven't already got it. We're going to show you our test review software. So you can run a test and you can look at that data without post-processing it in something like Excel. We'll look at specimen and test inputs. So now on the test screen, we can enter data and that data can then be used in various ways to run tests. And then we'll also show you how we have introduced some security features where you can have different levels of security for different users. So you don't have people changing your methods unwantedly, for example. Okay. And so this is just a little quick highlight of the various features. So we have on our WaveMatrix 2, we have our test buttons, we have our test specimen and test inputs and method generation. We have our quick test method generation, which I can highlight to you. We have the new security features in the admin screen. We have the new test review button. And most importantly, a lot of people tend to forget, we also have tutorials as well in our software, which can help you get up and running with various applications. I'll show you guys a little bit more on that. Oh, and finally, one last point is if you're ever unsure about a certain feature within our software, we have a context-sensitive help system. So wherever you are in the software, you press F1, it will pop up the help for that specific area. Okay, so before we move over to the demonstration proper, just remember I'll be showing my webcam for showing you the machine and also sharing my screen so you can actually see the software firsthand. So there won't be any slides at this point. It's all going to be purely demonstration. And again, just a reminder to type any questions you have into the Q&A box. It doesn't have to be about what I'm demonstrating, but if you have any kind of general questions about WaveMatrix or our software, feel free to enter those into the chat. So without further ado, I think I'm going to move over now to a sharing my screen and also a showing the video. So just give me one moment. There we go. Okay, so, and then I'm going to share my screen as well for the test PC. Okay, so yeah, you should all see that now. All right, so this is our E20000 machine I'm going to be showing you all today. So just a quick highlight on the parts of the hardware. So it's a 20 kilonewton dynamic testing machine. We have a set of 20 kilonewton pneumatic grips here, and our software you can see there on the screen as well. So what I'm going to show you is just a simple tensile cyclic test. I have a specimen in here currently, but I'm going to take it out and we'll start showing you from the beginning a typical kind of test, and then we'll show you how we can improve it with our latest features. Okay, wait for that to open. There we go. All right. So moving over to the focus on the software first. So ignoring the camera for a moment, what you see here in the software is our console software, which is the live displays here on the top and this sidebar on the left. And this again, like I said earlier, is our setup software. So I'm not going to go through the setup for the demonstration today. This demonstration isn't about console. It's really a focus on WaveMatrix3. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open WaveMatrix3. And for anyone who is using our WaveMatrix 1 or 2 software, you will see the first thing that comes up now is a security box, which you might not have. And you can see here I have various users. I have Ben, who is an operator. I have Bill, who is a lab manager. And then I have Bob, who is an administrator. So I'm going to sign in as Ben. So Ben has his own passcode. And once I've typed in the passcode, then it launches WaveMatrix3. Okay. And you'll see here that Ben, as an operator, is only capable of running tests and opening the test review software. And he can look at tutorials. So Ben, the operator, is asked to run a test. So he's going to go and he's going to run the test that he's been asked to run. So he's going to put a specimen in. He would have obviously tuned it, set up the limits, etc. So he's going to install the specimen. Okay. There we go. Nice and straight. Okay. And then once the specimen's installed, he's going to basically hit start on this test and it will run whatever test was set up for him. Okay. So it's just going to ramp to mean and then it's going to start cycling. And this test is a simple force control test. All the method is doing is it's just asking to go between 2000 and 200 newtons cycling at 2 hertz. Now, Ben, the operator, is unable to actually change anything about the method. So he can't change the frequency. He can't change anything else. He's locked into this particular test. So he just runs this until it fails. And then he moves on to the next specimen. So I'm going to stop the test now. And I'm going to close WaveMatrix. And I'm going to reopen it this time as the lab manager, Bill. So again, Bill has his own login and password. And when he opens up, you'll see there's now a couple more options. Now we have the method creation and we also have the quick test creation. So in this case, I can go back and I can open up that project again. So there's the same one that the operator was looking at, but now on the top here, you can see there's now a tab called method. I can now look at the method created originally, and I can now go in and I can change it. So for example, I could change the frequency from 2 to 3 hertz. But the most common thing that people want to change is things like the specimen dimensions. So if you want to run a test, for example, in stress control, you need to know the dimensions of your sample. So you would take your sample, you would take the calipers, and you would measure the width and the thickness, and you would then kind of calculate the stress based on that information and the force being applied. Now, if I wanted to change that to a stress control test, now I can show you some of the cool new features. One of them being specimen inputs. So on the left-hand side here in WaveMatrix, I have different specimen types, and this is a flat specimen. And I've already kind of filled in the details earlier. So I know it's got a thickness of 3.99 and a width of 10.3. And the good thing is with these specimen inputs, it's once they're created here, if I go back to the test screen, you can see here they appear here in this box called test inputs. And these fields are free to be filled in and changed by anyone who doesn't have access to the method. So now I can do things like back in my test control, I can change the commands to be now in stress. And we're going to say 27 MPa. I just know these numbers because I did this earlier. And I can have a stress control cyclic testing, 23 MPa, and I'll keep the frequency at 3 hertz. So now, when I run this test, I'm actually going to be doing it in the stress control. So I can actually readjust my layout here, so I can use a graph. So instead of looking at displacement, I could look at stress. Okay, and you can see here we're asking for 50 MPa down to 4, and it's holding steady. So by just doing a couple of tweaks there, we now have a stress control test. And you see, once the test is started, these boxes are grayed out, so we can't change the dimensions after the fact. But if I stop the test, and let's assume now we are changing to a different sample with slightly different dimensions, the operator will have access to these fields, be able to put that information in, and again, run a more accurate stress-controlled test. So I can demonstrate that again if I go and close WaveMatrix3, open it back up as the operator. Okay, go to test, continue project. Okay, and again, you can see here, I don't have access to method modification, but I do have access to the specimen inputs. And I can again change it to 4 and 11, for example, for the next sample, and I can hit start on that, and away I go. So that's a little bit on specimen inputs and security. But let's say something happens during the test which has caused an unexpected failure. Okay, now in previous times with WaveMatrix 1 and 2, what you would have to do is you'd have to click on the results folder tab button, and then you'd have to navigate to the correct method, and you'd have to take this data, and if you haven't got some kind of software on the test PC to actually process this data, you'd have to save it onto a memory stick or onto the cloud, and then go to your laptop in your office and post-process it there. What we do now have in WaveMatrix3 is another feature called Review Test. So I can click on Review Test, and you can see here it's showing me the data that was captured during that particular test. And you can do various kinds of things to analyze it. So you can look at specific cycles. For example, I can look at cycle 10 or cycle 20. You can change the axes of these. So for example, I can change this to, let's say, an XY graph with stress versus displacement. And you can get your hysteresis, for example. So you can change and mess with the data a lot more quicker and easier than you would with the previous method of, post-processing the files yourself. Now, these graphs are the only four graphs you're able to generate. It doesn't save any of the other information you would have had in your test screen. So, for example, all of this data here in the peak and trend box, you wouldn't have. But what you do have for the specimen inputs, if we go back to the results folder, is we have a log now of that specimen input information. So now any information that we have as test inputs will be saved as a separate log file. Okay. And then quickly back to this application. So this is a separate application, this review test software. So you can have multiple instances of it open. And again, like I said, you can review multiple previous tests. So you can look at test 7, for example, that I ran earlier. Or, go back to test 16. And yeah, it's giving you a much more quicker and easier way to review your data without a lot of laborious post-processing. The one thing we don't have here is any kind of report generation. So if you wanted to kind of save these graphs, what you would do is you would right click and you would copy the graph and you would paste it into whatever a report, a kind of a software you're using, like Microsoft Word, for example. And then that way you can, have some nice clean graphs ready to go much, much quicker. All right. So that's a little bit on the review test software. And we've talked about Windows 11 compatibility, talked about specimen inputs, and we've talked about tutorials as well, like I mentioned before. These are all really useful, so don't forget to always refer to these. These were actually introduced in WaveMatrix 2, so if you already have WaveMatrix 2, you should have these. But that is pretty much everything regarding WaveMatrix 3, newest features, which would be a real benefit to any lab, and a real kind of an incentive to upgrade your software, not just for the Windows 11 compatibility. Okay, so thanks everyone. I will stop sharing and I will move us back to Mark. Okay.
Thank you, Francis. Much appreciated for that quick demonstration. We are now moving over to the Q&A section. So now's a great time for everyone to put their questions in. We'll try to answer as many as we can. We've got about 5-10 minutes. Right, so I'm just bear with me, quickly look through the first ones. Okay. I'll read it out and then we'll pick it up as we go. So, can I use Windows 11 on WaveMatrix 2? Let me take this one. It's a nice, easy one to start with, to be honest with you. Yes, WaveMatrix 2 can be used in conjunction with Windows 11. However, going back to the earlier slides in the presentation, it's not supported, or Windows 10, for example, isn't supported, but also the software, because we've moved on to WaveMatrix3, it is supported, but we will not be updating it to benefit from any bug fixes and patches, security protocols, for example, that are delivered by Microsoft on Windows 11. So although it is compatible, it won't benefit from those security features either. The main reason why you should upgrade to Windows 11 ready software. Okay. Second question. Let me just read that here. I'll take this one as well. Can WaveMatrix3 run on Windows 10? Yes, it can do. It is compatible with Windows 10 operating system PCs, but again, we don't recommend this. We do recommend to upgrade for Windows 11 for all the aforementioned reasons on the previous one. Okay. Okay, quick question here. Can someone come and check my system? Yes, is the answer to that question. We do have an opportunity to do what we call a free lab health check. Our service engineers can come visit. So if you do wish for us to come and check out your system, it may be quite old. You might not be able to find the information online, or you might just be new and not know what the system is. Ultimately, yeah, we do offer that opportunity for us to come and check. We'll send an engineer to site free of charge. And we just ask that you contact us directly. You can go onto our website, type in the search box lab health check, and that will take you to the lab health check page. And there you'll find a very quick link to the contact us page. You fill in your details, and then that gets basically filtered through to the relevant person on the planet, wherever they might be, whether you're in America, whether in China, Japan, Korea, Germany, France, UK, it gets filtered to the right people, and we'll get in contact with you. Okay, hand over to Pete.
Hi, Mark, and hi, folks online. I got a question here about someone saying, "What?" I'm sorry, I'll put my video on if you want, and then you can see me. So what else can you do with the test inputs, the specimen inputs? And as you would have seen in Francis's demo, there can be dimensional inputs and there can be free-form specimen inputs, which can be text or numbers. Really, the purpose of those is about it's about capturing data and capturing information about your test piece or your test setup that all gets bound in with your test record. So it's partly about traceability, and you can use that for all sorts of other information about your specimen, just recording. In a very advanced use, we can do user-defined calculations. Obviously, this is perhaps a more in-depth discussion about WaveMatrix features. We have built-in calculations. We can also use user-defined calculations, and those have the ability to pick up on things that you've entered as specimen inputs. So you can do all sorts of interesting things which are calculated live during the test, and we can pick up on user inputs to do those. So. Good question. Very much advanced use, which is why I thought I'd pick up on that. But it's a nice capability that adds into WaveMatrix3.
Thank you, Pete. So I've got one more question here that's come in. I am using Blue Hill Universal, on a dynamic machine. However, I'm not sure which version is correct. Okay.
There's actually one.
Yeah, I can answer that one actually as myself. So, obviously we've got static testing machines, universal testing machines, and we've got dynamic testing machines. We're specifically talking about dynamic here. However, on a static machine, if you have Blue Hill Universal version 4.28 or newer, it is compatible with Windows 11. So you don't need to do anything there. If you are a dynamic machine, you would need version 4.34 or newer. Okay. Now, I think to be clear, if you're on a dynamic machine with 4.28 or newer, it's probably going to work. We just haven't tested it. However, contact us directly, and we should be able to advise accordingly as to what needs to be done in order to upgrade or update that software to get it working in Windows 11 compatible. Okay, over to Pete.
Another question online. Someone says, do you have already prepared finished methods like incremental step test? Now, two aspects to this. For WaveMatrix, we do not do that. So there are we have looked at that. There are some example methods which are really about tutorials. Those are prepared and available there. Specific standards-focused tests at this point in WaveMatrix3, there aren't any of those because it's quite difficult to do because there are so many setups. We are looking at it for a few very specific things as future options, but not at the moment. In Blue Hill Universal for monotonic and static tests, there are definitely prepared methods aligned, for example, with ISO and ASTM tensile tests and compression tests, that sort of thing. And those are far more formulaic. The other thing I would say is next week we'll be talking about Blue Hill fracture, which fracture mechanics tests are very, very specific. And in that software, there are absolutely method-specific tests. So I hope that answers you. I'll also type an answer in so you can see it. That's that question.
Okay, just checking. I think that brings us to the end of the Q&A session. We don't have any more questions at all. No, none from Francis. Any other final remarks from anybody before I wrap up the presentation? So, okay, thank you for all that have joined us. So just to summarize the presentation today before we close off. So obviously Windows 10 obsolescence, that is occurring on Windows 10 Professional, which mainly affects dynamic systems machines. So again, we obviously recommend that you upgrade to Windows 11 Ready, to be Windows 11 Ready for various different reasons, mainly around obviously the security bug fixes and the fact that software that has been designed for Windows 10, i.e. like WaveMatrix 2, it's not something that we will look to continue to update, even though it does operate and it is supported, but it is in theory a phase 2 piece of software. So we do recommend to upgrade to WaveMatrix3, which is Windows 11 ready. Again, there are 3 steps for checking whether your system is Windows 11 ready. Check the proprietary software you have, whether it's WaveMatrix, Blue Hill Universal, or Blue Hill Fracture, for example, to make sure you have the latest versions. Again, on our website, you have the ability to look at our software and check the out of production page to see which version your software is designed for and which versions of Windows it is compatible with. And it does vary across the different pieces of software. Some are backwards compatible, some aren't forwards compatible. So we do highly recommend you check that as well. Secondarily to that, obviously check your PC, your computer, and the type of Windows. If you're operating on Windows 10, of course, it's not Windows 11 ready. So we do recommend looking at how you upgrade to Windows 11. And again, within that, you need to check which PC you have. Again, we have a blog post and we have a very useful page about being Windows 11 ready on our website that will give you all of the basic information. And then finally, within that section, you should be checking your hardware. So your frame, the version of console that it has operating also needs to be a newer version. We provide that relatively easily, but check your frame and check your digital controller. It typically needs to be what we call an 8800 MT controller. It's smaller, svelte version. And if you have an older classic type, which is like a bigger white type version system, then you would likely need to upgrade. And I guess the simple point of that is that if you don't know, just get in contact with your local sales representative, or you can contact us on our website and we'll be happily available to answer. And then from a product upgrade point of view, again, just to sum up, we do recommend that you upgrade to Windows 11 ready software, systems, hardware, and PC. However, to be very clear, just because Windows 10 is becoming obsolete, your existing system won't stop to function. It will continue to function. Okay, so that's important. Again, as I mentioned, for any questions, please feel free to contact us on our contact us page, which you can see is written at the bottom there. As you navigate to our website, there's a very simple button in the top right hand corner that says contact us there. Okay, so anyway, thank you to all. Thank you to my colleagues for the presentation, and thank you to all that were listening. Yeah, hope you have a wonderful day, and we will speak to you later. Goodbye.